I've taught ethics at the college level for over 20 years and have wrestled with and expounded upon a host of ethical theories and perspectives. Perhaps I too have been affected by the postmodern zeitgeist of our age. Okay, was that obnoxious? All my friends and family, whenever I try to read them my stuff, they're just like, would you please just use words that people can understand? But postmodern, that's that, remember we talked about last night, that's that rejection of formulas. We're not baking cookies here. It's not like you can just measure in 4 cups of goodness, 2 tablespoons of truth, and bake it at 375 for an hour. We're talking about people and real lives. And it's not so neat and clear cut. It's a lot messier. And that's part of what I mean by this postmodern thing. And what I've noticed in a lot of ethical theories in the past is they're very formulaic. Like if you do A, B, and C, then D, E, and F will follow. And you'll hear that all the time. You'll see people write books like in counseling or raising adolescents or teens, and they'll be like, here's the way to raise a godly teen, or here's the way to have a healthy marriage. And they'll give you all these, and I'm not saying they're bad, but they'll give you these really practical steps, and they're implying that if you follow these steps, then everything will turn out rosy. But that is often not the case. You have parents that love Jesus, they do everything right for their children, and their children turn out to be hellspawn. Or you could be the most loving wife in the world, you could be like a servant to your husband, you could call him Lord, and he might just be a filthy pig and disrespects you, and you might pray for him every night, be submissive to his rule and authority in the home, and he just will not turn around. And the same thing, you could have a wife where you do everything for her, but she can never be pleased or satisfied, even though you've laid down your life for her like Christ did for the church. And so that's part of what really started to gnaw at me about these different ethical theories is they had these really neat formulas or ideas, but there was always some sort of flaw. And zeitgeist, that's just a fancy word that means spirit of the age. And so every age or generation has like certain themes or things that sort of drives them. Like your grandparents' generation or your great-grandparents, you know, they called them the Great Generation. They went through a couple world wars, through the Depression, they worked hard, they had a strong work ethic. And then you had the boomers, then you had like the Generation X, and I think they're calling you guys the millennials or something like that. So they have a lot of bad things to say about you. But they do that with every generation. Every generation before acts like, oh, what has gone wrong with this generation? And I'm sure you'll think the same thing of the people that come after you. But this idea is, it's true. I'm not satisfied with just taking the ethical theories from the past and expecting them to work in the 21st century. And so I began to think, well, maybe it's not an either or, like I have to be a Kantian or a divine command theorist or an ethicist of care or something like that, but maybe I could take bits and pieces, maybe a little existential ethics here and a little divine command theory there, and I could make this hybrid ethical theory in which I could live out my life. And ethics, for those of you that don't know, it's the philosophical study of right conduct. So ethics is the theory of right conduct. Morality is putting that theory into practice. So when we talk about someone's ethics, it's kind of like the ideals or values that guide their lives. And when we talk about whether or not someone is moral, usually what we mean, like if we say, oh, that girl is so immoral, what I probably mean by that is she is not living up to my ethical standards. She might very well be living up to her ethical standards and guidelines, but she's not living up to mine. So in a lot of ways, you could say ethics would be equivalent to like someone who goes to college and studies culinary arts, and morality is the cook, the fry cook in the kitchen actually making the pancakes and the fried eggs. They're putting it into practice. And so that's kind of the distinction there. But even my hybrid theories fell short, and I finally realized that I was an unbeliever in ethical systems and solutions as to how to determine the right way to live. I realized that ethics, like religion, were all human constructs and attempts to come to terms with how to reconcile ourselves to the good life or to God. Unfortunately, all ethical and religious systems are developed by finite, fallible creatures, and because of these limitations, we could never satisfy the eternal, infallible desire that we feel inside of ourselves to be in right relationship with God. And so here I was, this professor of ethics and religion at a Christian college, no less, and I come to the realization after teaching them for 5-10 years that I don't even believe in them, which I thought was quite ironic, personally. And even to this day, I don't know if the administration at my school realizes I'm like an ethical agnostic. I don't believe in ethics.